The Genesis G80 Electrified is one of the most normal EVs I've driven. I'll tell you all about it. Let's get to it. Genesis is a very young automotive brand, cleaving itself off from Hyundai in 2015. It's so new, I still find myself explaining what it is to people admiring the G80 sedan. Available with turbocharged 4 and V6 engines, this one has no place for the gas nozzle. Discreetly hidden in the shield grille is a charge port. This is the Electrified G80, not a clever name, but it is an impressive effort. In its short life, Genesis has managed to bring an electric car to market before established players like Acura, Infiniti, Lexus, and Lincoln, and it's kind of tied with Cadillac. Oftentimes, when automakers use electrified to describe their vehicles, it's usually a marketing term for hybrid or plug-in hybrid. Looking at you, Toyota. Electrified G80 is a pure EV. There is no gas engine under this hood. And Genesis might be Hyundai's luxury division, but this does not ride on the same eGMP platform as Ioniq 5. When engineers were developing this architecture, they made it flexible so they could install both gas and electric powertrains. The Electrified G80 is a very appealing car, but only available in 8 states, so let's get that clear from the get-go. It comes one way, fully loaded, and retails for around $81,000, a premium of $10,000 over a comparable V6 all-wheel drive model. The Electrified is as stealthy as it is exclusive. No blue tinted trim, no faux embossed circuitry that screams this is an EV. It's completely and utterly normal, the biggest tell being the lack of pipes. Oh, and the solid schnoz. To my eye, it's the best shield grille Genesis has produced. Excellent camouflage for the semi-autonomous driving sensors, something Genesis hasn't always hidden well. If you're a frunk lover, Electrified G80 will disappoint. Hey, at least the hood isn't sealed like BMW iX and Mercedes EQS. Fill the washer fluid the old-fashioned way. Even the bay looks like a gas-powered model right down to the radiator. The dual motor setup makes 365 horsepower and 516 pound-feet of instant torque to move 5,038 pounds of steel, glass, plastic, leather, and battery. Not a true dedicated skateboard platform, the 87.2 kilowatt-hour lithium-ion polymer pack is laid out in the floor and intrudes a skosh on cabin space, robs a couple cubic feet from the trunk, too. It starts the same as the Gas 80. Booting up instead of firing up, there's a 3D quality about the cluster that my camera doesn't capture. The only EV with a geared transmission is Porsche Taycan, so this is just a selector. Remember, this is a dual-motor, all-wheel drive setup. There's a good amount of information about range, and if you should need it, charging stations nearby. Drive modes include Eco, which tames the throttle response, nice for driving relaxation since there's a lot of instant torque happening here. The paddle on the left adds recuperation drag, the one on the right backs it off. If you live by the 0 to 60 benchmark, this will do that in just under 5 seconds. It's pretty quick. Not as fast as some EVs, but really, how fast do you need to go? In city traffic, you're probably stuck behind a Prius anyway. The instant torque off the line makes it feel faster than it is. Really, it should be satisfying for most people. Really, this is a quick sedan. There's plenty of power for passing on 2-lane highways to get past slow-moving RVs. The E G80 has good giddy-up in those situations. The heavy batteries are in the floor, giving this a lower center of gravity than the gas-only G80. When you chuck this hard into a corner, you definitely feel the weight. This is more of a luxury sedan, not a sports sedan. That said, there's little to no body roll during cornering. Unless you're pushing it extremely hard, motions are nicely controlled. A lot of the luxury vibe comes from the design and materials of the cabin, plus the size of the G80. From behind the wheel, it feels like the larger sedan that it is. So this has a camera that reads the road ahead and tells the adaptive shocks what's about to happen, giving this an extremely good ride quality. A little firm, but really not bad. Even if you're not a card-carrying Greenpeace eco-warrior, the electric drivetrain is perfect for the Genesis luxury mission. At speed, the Electrified G80 is exceptionally quiet, just what you want from a luxury sedan. Stomp on the throttle and all you hear is a little bit of wind noise, and that is extremely well managed. There are no space-agey synthesized sounds to call up on the G80. All you're going to hear are the electric motors. And I will say this, at around 20 miles an hour and lower, you're going to hear some electric whine, whether it's the motors or the exterior warning tone. Listen. Not sure if my mics are picking it up, but it is something to listen for on your test drive. I find the blind spot warning camera to be an excellent system. It's activated by the turn signals for those who don't use them. The projected range of the G80 Electrified is some 280 miles. It's been around 75 to 80 degrees in the Seattle area, and I'm right on track to nail that. Some EVs meet their range, others are, well, shall we say, optimistic. By now, you should know that EV range is determined by a bunch of things, like temperature and driving style. In Bismarck, North Dakota winters, range will drop significantly. Kind of a moot point since this isn't sold there. Turn off the regen and this will coast forever, but you can also dial in one-pedal driving. Let's do the Mississippi test. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi, 5 Mississippi, and a complete stop. So yeah, one-pedal driving is definitely a thing on the G80 Electrified. The semi-autonomous driving system is not as good as GM's Super Cruise, but on long highway straightaways, it will motor along hands-free for a considerable distance, oftentimes over a minute. That's better than autopilot, but the Tesla system handles sharper curves more confidently than the Genesis. This may not be built on the eGMP platform, but Electrified G80 uses many of the same components, including 800-volt charging. Find a 350 kilowatt station, and it can juice up from 10 to 80% in an impressive 22 minutes. Right now, those aren't nearly as popular as these. And many forget that charging speed depends on ambient temperature and how full the pack is. There are all sorts of variables. Tesla's supercharger network remains the gold standard, but
charging started.
Many don't need a robust infrastructure. It just depends on how much you road trip. In my opinion, for the best EV experience, you really need to be able to charge where you sleep. That way, you wake up every morning to a full tank of gas. Charging speed isn't as critical in that situation. Yes, if you travel a lot, then infrastructure and speed do matter. But oftentimes, when people travel over 300 miles, they end up flying. Obviously, gas cars have an advantage. A stop takes 5 to 10 minutes. My most common excursion is Portland, Oregon, about 190 miles away. Typically, once there, I charge while at meetings or shopping, so in a sense, there's really no time spent fueling. In the 30 minutes it took for me to shoot this sequence, I went from 30 to 95%, and this terminal was far from running at full speed. EVs require a different mindset. Bonus, this session was free, something that I haven't seen at Shell and Chevron stations. And don't forget to be a courteous EV driver. Never park at terminals unless you're actively charging, and move ASAP once you're done. The interior looks just like any other Genesis G80, a very good thing, though tall folks should know that it does give up 3/4 of an inch of headroom. All of the materials are top shelf and presented in the luxury car manners that buyers should expect for 81 grand, right down to complex knurling on many of the controls. This is birch, reclaimed from furniture making. It feels as good as it looks. The Napa leather makes a baby's bottom feel rough by comparison. These seats have loads of ways to make them yours. They're heated and vented naturally. Plus, the driver's chair features a massage setting. Don't tell the passenger. It's much appreciated after a day of hunching over a camera. Winter is coming. Nice to have a heated wheel. I don't mind the transmission selector, but even after a week in this car, I still confuse it and the interface controller. The HVAC controls have their own section with dedicated knobs and an easy-to-use touchscreen. There's 14.5 inches of screen at eye level. It's easy to see while driving. Graphics are excellent and upscale. As mentioned, it can be controlled by this or with fingers directly. Response is excellent and the arrangement and flow are easy to follow even while driving. Natural voice commands are lacking, and even though there's a Qi charger for phones, wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto are missing in action. They require a cord. Then again, Tesla doesn't offer either of them at all. The excellent Lexicon system offers reference quality sound with tight, accurate bass. Wood and leather used to define luxury interiors. Now ambient lighting is a big player. The color can be changed in the G80. I'm going with the Prince look. It's nice. If mood lighting at night is your thing, BMW and Mercedes do it more dramatically. And you'll never forget what you're driving when walking up to it. That's for sure.
I remember the gas-only G80 having a pretty big back seat. Yeah, well, this one has battery packs in the floor, and they do take up space. We're both 5'9". Headroom reduced by about 1.5 inches. Maybe one reason there isn't a sunroof option. I've got that much. That's fine. Knee and legroom, very generous. Footroom, a little bit on the tight side. Cushions, a little bit lower, so thigh support is good, not excellent. And door openings are big enough so that car seats go in and out, no sweat. Door pockets, those are pretty good sized, and built-in sunshades. I really like having those. And check this out, one in the back too. Nice to have. The paparazzi is always at my door. You all know how I feel about pockets in the seat backs. Nice that there are two. Lots of venting and my own climate zone back here. Also nice. I like this touch. The person sitting behind the front passenger can mess with them and get all the foot and leg room they want. The center spine, not too intrusive, so foot room for 3 adults is fine when you're not using the center console. USB ports are here. A little surprised that these aren't heated. You can put 3 adults back here. They're perfectly fine for trips across town. Road trips across country, yeah, keep it to 2.
Gas or electric, the G80 is a very handsome sedan and collected a bunch of compliments from passerbys. Many had not heard of Genesis. Maybe it's the Aston Martin-like badge or the Phil Collins reference, but a few asked if it's British. Apparently, the designers had a tough time keeping all of the marker lights at the same height because of all sorts of worldwide safety regulations, but it was well worth the effort. It ties the car together. Subtle scallops in the sheet metal make this a fun car to walk around and admire. Aggressive and elegant at once, there's not a line out of place. Genesis includes a portable charge cord and this vehicle-to-load adapter, so if your home loses power, grab a long extension cord. It can run a refrigerator or freezer for days, and good for camping too, though I don't expect to see many of these roaming the wilderness.
Laugh if you want at the 2-ply, but it's an excellent standardized measurement metric. For example, the gas G80 takes on 6 packs. That is not going to happen with this one, and here's why.
The battery pack carves out a couple cubic feet from the cargo area and eliminates the split folding seats that would make this more useful. At least there's a small pass-through. It could handle a set of skis, maybe 2. And there is some storage underneath the floor, a few little cubbies to get things organized. Like so many vehicles these days, no spare tire along for the ride, just a repair kit. Normally, I don't think it's a big deal when an EV lacks a frunk, but that lump does take away utility. Realistically, the usability is reduced by 50%. 4 packs for a vehicle this size is a little underwhelming. Maybe check out the brand's GV60 EV that will be arriving soon if you need to haul a lot of stuff. Let's move on to red light, green light. Green light. The quiet and powerful electric drivetrain suits the Electrified G80 perfectly. It's luxury done right. The driving dynamics are excellent, comfortable with well-managed body control. The 282-mile electric range is easy to achieve. Not all EVs can say that. Like the gas model, it's exceptionally easy on the eyes, both inside and out. Yellow lights. Commercial charging speed is excellent. If you can't charge at home, it's not as practical, just like any electric vehicle. I find the interface controller and transmission selector are easy to mistake for each other. And with all the luxury and tech in this car, kind of a shame there aren't heated seats to pamper those in back. Red light. A car this good deserves to be sold everywhere in the US. Electrifying the G80 means losing a little cabin space and a chunk of trunk room. The Hyundai Group really needs to figure out how to incorporate wireless CarPlay and Android Auto into its high-end interfaces. And natural voice commands would be great too. Yeah, these are first world problems to an extreme. Fact is, the Electrified G80 nails its mission even if there are some compromises using an architecture not built exclusively for electrification. It not only beats other luxury marques to the pure EV market, Genesis has a second one, the GV60.
So if you're looking for a luxurious EV, this should definitely be on your test drive list. It has all the attributes that make electric cars great. It's quiet, it's powerful, and this one feels very much like a regular gas-powered G80. Too bad it's not available in all states.
Chances are it's not good enough to make someone move to one of the 8 states it can be had in, but for people who want to eliminate gasoline from their lives and live where this can be had, the Electrified G80 is a comfortable, powerful, and stylish way to motor about emission-free. Inevitably, there will be comments on how EVs run on electricity generated by fossil fuels. I'm a little tired of the argument about coal. It only makes up some 20% of electricity generation these days, and it's shrinking rapidly since renewables are much cheaper. And typically, even when running on electrons generated by fossil fuels, the impact of EVs on the environment is much less once they've been around for 50,000 miles or so. That's according to many reliable sources, cradle to grave. Truth is, folks, we're in transition and will be for the next 10 years. Buy the vehicle and powertrain that meets your needs. EVs are not perfect for everyone right now, especially if you're in an apartment or condo, but they work really well for some buyers. Personally, considering my lifestyle, I don't think I'll buy another gas-powered car. And there are so many more choices now. Choosing one will become more and more difficult, in a good way.
You all know that I shoot, write, and edit these videos, and I can't get running footage without somebody driving. That somebody would be a real somebody, Martin Campbell. He's in back. I'm chauffeuring him around, the only time he gets any real respect in this world.
And before I go, I will mention that I do drive Teslas on a regular basis, and I know their strengths and weaknesses, but because the company makes it so difficult, I choose not to produce any videos on them. And don't forget about my price quote service. It benefits this channel, and being the poor business person that I am, I'll encourage you to use any of them. Save yourself some trouble and maybe some money. Use one of them, okay? None of them are perfect, but they can go a long way in helping to find a new vehicle, especially these days when it's hard to shop.
This is the end, and that means it's fun fact time. A lot of people forget that until recently, Genesis had no standalone dealerships in the US. Yeah, you would go to a Hyundai dealership to buy them, and when it was time for service, a concierge would come out to your house, drop off a loaner, bring your vehicle in for service, and then reverse the process. Well, that's all changed. It was March 2022 when the first standalone Genesis dealership opened in Lafayette, Louisiana. And apparently there are 6 more online for 2022. Eventually, Genesis wants 90 to 100. Well, there you go. That's your fun fact. Remember, subscribe to this channel, click notifications, follow me on Twitter. I'm pretty active there. You can ask me a question on Twitter, or you can leave one here, okay? I'll try to get back to you. That's Driven. I'm Tom Voelk.